The X3 is Insta360's latest take on the candy bar-like 360 camera. A different take than the wearable Go 2 or the One RS, the X3 features a large touchscreen, a new half-inch sensor, new shooting modes, and a price tag of $450. But altogether, it's an easy-to-use and pretty much ready for anything camera that can take action footage to another level with the powerful AI editing app and stabilization. And of course, we have the camera here and we're able to test it out and get some footage, so let's dive in and take a closer look at the Insta360 X3. Hey everyone, I'm Jordan with 9 to 5 Toys. So rather than the module design of the One RS that we checked out earlier this year, the X3 is an evolution of the One X2. It's this kind of candy bar-like design where you have a pretty tall device that has the two lenses located up here on the top to capture 360 video. And this thing is pretty much ready to capture anything right out of the box when it comes to action sports. One major upgrade with this camera is the large touchscreen that is on the back, and this makes changing settings and previewing angles a breeze. Under the screen are buttons for starting and stopping recordings, as well as swapping between the 360 mode and a single lens mode. On the right side are two additional buttons for powering on the camera, and another button to call up a menu to quickly swap between customized presets. In this menu, I created one for video, for active HDR video, for photo, for hyperlapse. You can just kind of set up different settings here really easily and quickly swap between them. And the Insta360 X3 is waterproof up to 33 feet, as Insta360 claims, and it also features a removable battery. So at its core, it's a very simple, very easy to use camera that, with Insta360's AI control and their app, creates some really easy ways to get some really eye-catching content. But with powerful features like that new half-inch sensor and shooting up to 5.7K active HDR footage, it can be pretty useful in some other more professional scenarios as well. Editing in a non-linear editor like Premiere Pro or Final Cut Pro takes a bit more work, but it is fairly straightforward. And being able to capture an entire scene and reframe the shot afterwards is pretty powerful for solo creators. And while we might not cover every single granular detail in this hands-on review, I am going to try to cover most of the new stuff and then also just share my experience when I was using it for mainly capturing video. So really the main feature here is 360 video, which is very easy to edit both in the app, the mobile app like I was using on my iPhone, or you can also use it on a desktop app as well. And there are really powerful controls in there to do some nice AI like editing and add some different effects and change things up. Or you can also export it out and then import it into like Premiere Pro or any other non-linear editor and take advantage of these 360 videos next to all of your other footage. So that 5.7K 360 video works really well, but I was definitely more impressed by the active HDR mode. And this will help in more like tricky lighting situations, where there are some really bright highlights as well as some darker scenes, like if you are shooting in a kind of shaded area but you can see some sky in the background. This active HDR mode will try to kind of bring all that information in there and try to save it so you aren't like blowing out the sky in the background. So for me, in practice using this, I went for another motorcycle ride, which is what I usually do when testing these 360 cameras, and I did one pass on the normal mode and then the second pass with the active HDR mode. And this was shortly after sunrise, and it's easy to see the big difference that it made here for preserving the sky and those highlights up there. Just a lot more detail and overall a much more pleasing image. And likewise, I got this other shot by a dam where you can see the difference between the normal mode and the active HDR mode. So personally, if I am shooting outside, it would be hard for me to find a scenario where I wouldn't prefer the active HDR mode. Now, Insta360 says that, good light is required for this mode, so if you are indoors or shooting in a darker scenario, it might not work very well. But outside, I definitely think that this is the way to go, and it's definitely gonna get you the best footage. But if capturing 360 video isn't what you're trying to do in a specific scene with this camera, there is now a single lens mode. So basically you can just use one of these different lenses, and it's really easy to swap in between those to capture just like 180-degree footage. And there are two different field of view modes available. So first off is the standard mode, and this uses in-camera stabilization. And while this does work to stabilize the footage, it's not quite the same as the flow state that you would get as running it through the app. So with that in-camera stabilization, you aren't going to get any sort of horizon correction if you are turning the camera, but as far as just like walking around and moving the camera, you still get some pretty stable footage. But if you put it in the FOV plus mode, you can shoot up to 170 degrees, and then you can also use that flow state stabilization, which is accessible through the Insta360 app. So this will put in that horizon horizon lock, so if you're turning the camera, it's not going to turn the footage, it's gonna keep that rock solid in the center. So if you don't wanna mess with an app, you just wanna capture some footage, the standard FOV mode works well for that, but if you do want the flow state, which provides some even more stable footage, then you can use that FOV plus mode and then edit that or export it through the app. The bullet time mode has also been upgraded on the X3. It can now shoot in 4K at up to 120 frames per second. So higher resolution, higher frame rates should mean, crisper, smoother footage, but still in practice, it doesn't look as good to me as kind of like the standard 360 footage. And really, I don't know where I would use this very much, just personally for my own content creation, but if you are a creator, it can provide some pretty unique perspectives that could be kind of eye-catching and fun to share. And moving on to the photo side of things, thanks to a larger sensor, another new feature here is the ability to shoot 72 megapixel 360 photos. And there is also an HDR photo mode, but the resolution is limited to 18 megapixels. So you kind of have to decide between if you want a higher dynamic range to try to save some of those highlights, but you do lose some sharpness. If it's going to be a super wide photo where you're just capturing the scene, the HDR would probably be fine, but if you're planning on cropping in a little bit or blowing it up a little bit bigger, you might want to opt for the 72 megapixel non-HDR version so you get a sharper image with a lot more detail. Additionally, there is a new 8K 360 time-lapse mode, and once again, Insta360 recommends good lighting conditions. And like the Go 2 and the One RS, another highlight of the Insta360 X3 is the app control. From the Insta360 app, there are powerful tools for viewing, editing, and exporting video. For users who want to make quick clips to post on social apps, this is a great way to get some quick and eye-catching content. One such tool, for example, is the ability to replace the sky in a compatible 15-second or less clip. Surprisingly, my motorcycle riding footage was not compatible, but I had another clip that was. And with options for galaxies and 3D shapes, it's pretty easy to get an eye-catching clip with this mode. I was also pretty impressed with how the audio worked, considering riding a motorcycle at around 50 miles per hour, it wasn't all wind. You could still hear a lot of engine noise, and it actually sounded pretty clear and pretty good to me. So here, let's listen to a clip. And the great thing about replaceable batteries is that you can always have another spare if you need a little more runtime. For me, I was able to fill up the 64GB micro SD card with a little over an hour's worth of 360 video before the battery even ran out. So altogether, the Insta360 X3 really does take their 360 cameras to the next level at that price tag of $450. And this is just $30 more than the X2 goes for right now, so not that much more money to get this really nice interactive touchscreen, to get some better resolution, to get that better sensor, and kind of these new shooting modes as well. And if you're a content creator, looking to find something that you can use to create some really eye-catching content, this camera is definitely able to do that in a very easy to use manner. Insta360's app and flow state stabilization give rock solid results that really can take content to some interesting places. And capturing moments with 360 cameras is really just a lot of fun because you don't have to worry about framing. You just kind of put the camera out there, capture it, and then reframe it in post. Now, of course, you can't get, the same like focal lengths and stuff as you would with other more dedicated cameras, but for kind of like action footage and where you like a nice wide image, this is just a lot of fun to play with. And another benefit of that for social media and content creation in general is that through the app, it's really easy to export out in different aspect ratios. So if you need vertical for TikTok or Instagram, but you want landscape for YouTube or something else, it's really easy to swap in between those. And because you have like an entire image, an entire 360 image, you really aren't going to be losing any content or any quality through that. All right, well, that's going to do it for our quick look hands-on review of the Insta360 X3. Let us know what you think about it down in the comments below. And if you're looking for some other videos to watch, I will link to our review of the One RS as well as our most recent video. And thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. This is Jordan with 9to5 Toys.